Hello and welcome back. We are summarizing how to read a book, and this is part two, chapter 8, coming to terms with an author. In this chapter, we will discuss the importance of coming to terms with an author, and the reason for this is simple. Okay, if an author uses a word in a certain definition or connotation, and if and if your understanding of it differs, communication will be adversely affected. Duh, right? Um, Makes sense, but worth mentioning nonetheless. Okay, therefore, it's the writer's job to avoid ambiguity when writing. Okay, with some exceptions like poetry, we'll look at those in due time. Okay, but unless you're writing poetry or unless it's a song, perhaps. Okay, your job is to be as clear as possible as a writer. Okay, and the reader's job to understand the precise meaning is to understand the precise meaning of the major terms being used. Okay, hence rule 5. Okay, identify the most important words an author employs and use them as a catalyst for comprehending his or her major terms. Okay, keep in mind that the use of language is a paradoxical phenomenon, right? And what I mean by this is that although it is designed as a medium of communication, it sometimes results in the very opposite outcome. Okay, words are an imperfect attempt at expressing thoughts and ideas. Yet, apart from perhaps art, they are our only means of doing so. Okay, so since language is far from ideal, it is inevitable that effort must be put into understanding how a particular author uses specific words. In short, reading and writing involve giving and taking. Okay, a reader cannot expect any author to get through to him or her if they don't make the effort to overcome the obstacles that language invariably entails. Okay, so it's always important to remember we're dealing with an imperfect medium. Okay, useful though it may be. Okay, language is imperfect. So this brings us to the next question. How do we find these special words, these terms, right? The first caveat is that not all words are important. Okay, most in fact are not. The first step is to focus on the words that give you trouble for any reason. Okay, they may be difficult, they may be unfamiliar, or the choice of their use in a specific context may not be immediately apparent. Okay, so what is this word? Why is it being used here? Okay, if you pause and ask about those, you've probably stumbled upon your terms. Okay, moreover, you may know a word's denotation. Okay, you may know the word's dictionary definition, but you may not be familiar with its connotations, okay, or how it relates to other words. So if you understand the passage these terms are in, you'll understand which words are important to the writer. Another paradox, isn't it? Okay, so to understand the words, you must understand the passage, and to understand the passage, you must understand the important words. Okay, here I would like to remind my viewers about something I mentioned in my earlier videos. Okay, you cannot possibly comprehend what an author has to say without at least reading the book, okay, a passage, an article, whatever, at least twice. Okay, so when you read it at least twice, the second time round, after you've gotten the full picture, okay, then you'll be in a better position to say what is important and what isn't. Okay, so we go back to this. So far we have two pieces of advice that are indispensable. Okay, one, read the thing more than once. Okay, and two, ask questions. If you want to become a better reader, ask questions. Okay, so far I've mentioned a process of elimination, okay, in order to pinpoint terms. There are other ways, okay, starting with the author's repetition or stress of certain terms. Okay, an author may define specific words, italicize them, or place them in quotation marks, and so on. Okay, so the authors often help you, okay, know these terms. Also, it helps to be aware that every profession has its own nomenclature, okay, words that are common to all practitioners of these professions. They may use them conventionally or have their own unique definitions, okay? And it's important to be aware of this in either case. In some fields, this is easier done than others, okay? Philosophy, for instance, is one subject matter where common words with agreed upon meanings are difficult to find. Okay, and the authors go into an extended discussion on this. Remember, Mortimer J. Adler, the original writer of the first book, the 1940 edition, is is a philosopher. Okay, so when he talks about philosophy, it's important to, for me at least, it's important to listen. Okay. Another technique is to look for words related to or dependent upon the initial key terms you identified. Okay, let me read that again. Another technique is to look for words related to or dependent upon the initial key terms you identified. Okay, so if you've identified whatever 6 key terms, okay, what are the words that sort of go under them? All right, that's important. In this chapter and in this video specifically, okay, terms is obviously an important, term, but so is ambiguity, right? Paradox of language, and so on. Still, another tool in finding important terms is identifying where and when an author argues with another over a word's meaning or usage. Okay, this is a clear sign that a specific word or idea is important to the author. Okay, so if he tells you, whatever, author A said that, author B said that, but I think this, okay, you've probably stumbled upon a gold mine of terms. Okay, last point. Once you've identified the terms of an author, your work is not done. Okay, sometimes a certain term stays the same throughout the text. However, in other instances, the word's connotations shift. Okay, so how can you be aware of this? The short answer is context clues. Okay, look at the context. Look at the words before and after the term. Okay, from the words you do understand, you should be able to identify the meaning or at least the connotations of the term you are exploring. Okay, tapping into what you know in order to understand what you don't is no simple task, but it's not an impossible one. Okay. You should also be aware that there is no one true, tried and tested method for achieving the task of understanding a term and making sense of it. Okay, it's like making a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, some trial and error is involved, but the more you make, the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes for you to find your way through it, and the more confident you'll become. So, in addition, note that some terms can stand for several different meanings, while one meaning can have several words attached to it, okay, such as nonetheless and nevertheless. All right. A word of caution then: do not assume that when an author uses the same word, it has the same meaning. Okay, and likewise, do not assume that a term has changed only because a synonym has been employed. Okay. Note also that phrases, not just words, can be terms. Okay, although phrases are often less ambiguous in general. Okay, that's the end of this chapter.